Hello, hello. Welcome to Ghost in the Craig. I'm your host, Craig, and today I wanted to discuss a movie that I had saw recently, Mother Android, with Chloe Grace Moretz. She is just the best. I've totally been a fan of hers ever since Let Me In back in the day. That was a great film, along with her and her as Hit Girl, of course, and Kick Ass, and her Carrie reboot was all right, but she's been in some good stuff, and I really like her as an actress. And this new film, Mother Android, it's on Hulu, starring her. It's a great movie. I actually really enjoyed it. It is February, right? The month of love. I'm trying to keep a theme of whether it's something I love or like just the element of love in whatever it is I'm talking about. And in Mother Android, man, love was definitely like the key element of this movie. But a thought that I had that pertains to this movie was that, some of these shows and movies that are being put out on all these streaming services, whether it's Peacock, fucking Apple TV, Paramount Plus, HBO Max, all these services, I wonder where exactly how they figure out whether to make something into a movie or to make it into a series, because some shows that are now turning into series and they're gonna have a second season and shit, some of them probably could have gotten away with making it into a movie. All this Marvel stuff on Disney Plus probably would have been better as movies, but now that people are so into streaming shows and sitting at home all day, it's like they might as well stretch it out into shows. But then also some of these movies that they're making, or they're stretching out in the show, so they don't want to condense it into a movie. But then some of these movies that they're making, they're also condensing. They probably should condense them into or stretch them out into TV shows, right? Because they don't add enough information, or they leave out too much, or there's not enough to be to get you invested fully in the story, because it's just 2 hours, right? Or an hour and 40 minutes, or however long the movie is. Where when it's a show, you can really expand on things and discuss things more. And yeah, maybe the show will suck because you can maybe add too much shit in it, but for the most part, at least you can actually like get your story across better with a TV show versus a movie. But so I feel like Mother Android fell into that category, because honestly, I think it would have been an awesome series. I think Mother Android should have had like a 2-season run. First season could have showed what happens with Chloe and her boyfriend and the things they go through, and then the second season, showing what really happened with the androids and how all of this shit happened. So that's just my thought, 2 cents on how this movie was done. But anyway, Mother Android stars Chloe Grace Moretz, and she plays this character Georgia, and then she's with her boyfriend Sam. And pretty much in the beginning of the film, they find out they're pregnant, right? She finds out she's pregnant, and they're like trying to figure out if they want to have the kid or not, and what they're gonna do. And the boyfriend's like, I totally am, I got you, whatever you do, right? Like, and it's cool. It's funny because the boyfriend, like, and he's a brother too. He's got the most ridiculous man bun, but man bun aside, he was still a cool guy. But I also didn't like him at times. Like, he was a cool dude, and he cared about Georgia and everything, and he wanted to be there for her, but at the same time he did things that were just like, bro, it's not smart. But anyway, so she finds out she's pregnant, and they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do, and they're like, all right, we'll figure it out later. And they go to this college party, and you find out at the party that apparently everyone has androids. Androids are like the new hot thing on the market. And they're not just like random robots like iRobot or something. I'm talking about full on like androids, like Terminator. Like they actually have exoskeletons and shit. Or machine that mirrors our skeletons and shit underneath the skin. I mean, it's insane. It's like all of a sudden Tesla came out and everybody had a Tesla, But so everyone has an android, and they're at this party, and for some reason the androids snap. They have a fucking straight up Skynet moment where they start killing people, and they start murdering, destroying shit, and just destroying the world. And this signal gets sent out through everyone's phone, because everyone's on their phone calling for help, and their phones start exploding, and people start dying. Like they just start, if they're trying to call help, and the phones are blowing up, they're blowing up on their face and shit. It's insane. And then the movie jump cuts. It fucking jump cuts from at that moment, right? Everything's going down. You're like, what the hell's going on? Androids, oh my god. To it jumps 9 months later. Literally 9 months later. I would have wanted to know like what happened with her being pregnant the whole time. But it jumps to 9 months later. She's 9 months pregnant. Chloe Grace, right? She's 9 months pregnant. Her and her boyfriend are like traversing the woods trying to get away and like trying to find salvation from these androids. And it turns into like a weird mix between Terminator and A Quiet Place, right? Because A Quiet Place, you know, they had to be quiet and get around the city and the world with all these monsters running around. And, you know, she was pregnant, where in this one, she's pregnant going around where all these robots are running around. I mean, it's the same difference. It's just, instead of monsters, it's machines. And then it's Terminator, like I said, because they're all fucking Terminators pretty much. There's a scene where one of them gets shot up and his face literally looks like a Terminator face. Literally pulled from Terminator. So like I said, it jump cuts, which is where I feel like the TV show would have really done this movie justice, because we could have found out what happened in that time gap, because 9 months is a long time and a lot of story could be told and a lot of story can be pulled from those 9 months. I mean, come on, you're telling me that nothing of interest happened in those 9 months? They didn't find any crazy safe houses, no crazy survivors, no post-apocalyptic people, no crazy animals. Like, they didn't find anything. They didn't see jack shit in 9 months. Hard to believe. Which is why I say the show would have been great to really expand on those 9 months and show what exactly these characters were going through, you know, in those 9 months. So it jumps after the 9 months and they're, you know, trying to get around and going through the city and they're sleeping in tents and shit. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is so crazy that they're dealing with that, right? Because she's pregnant. But again, if you've seen A Quiet Place, you're like, oh man, this is kind of exactly what happened in Quiet Place almost, except they don't have kids already. You know, it's just them too. So they end up getting to a base camp and they find a camp, and apparently throughout the world there's little camps set up that the military put up where pretty much, you know, it's like a safe zone, and you know, the military are like holding out forts of, you know, to keep androids at bay. And the Boston Harbor is supposedly taking refugees to Korea, because apparently like Korea has no androids for whatever reason. I mean, honestly, you're telling me the whole world has androids except for Korea? I mean, all right, I guess. So their whole mission is like to get to Korea. And so they get to this base camp and they find out all this information. And like I said, the boyfriend's kind of a hothead. Like he wants to like protect her and stuff, but he wants to like get them to this Boston Harbor. It doesn't, it's like those post-apocalyptic movies where they're like, we're going to get to this location. It might not even be there, but obviously that's the location we want to get to. But when they find out that it might not even actually be there, he's still like headstrong. He's still like, nah, we're going to go. Like, I'm going to protect you. We're going to get to this harbor. So, you know, that's why I say, like, he's a good guy. But at the same time, it's like, bro, like, you're here in this camp. You're safe. There's no reason to leave, right? There's no reason to risk her life and the baby's life when you guys could easily be safe and secure. You know, I mean, call me crazy, but this is the safest place to be. So he ends up going, and you know, they get in an argument about it, and he goes and he talks to this, like, some of the military guys, and he ends up getting in a fight with them because the guy's like, oh, you know, you want to go to no man's land, which is like, you know, a section of area between where they're at and that Boston Harbor. And apparently if you anywhere in that zone, it's like a dead zone. Like, you will die. There's so many androids or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I want to get through there. You know, I'm trying to get my family there. And the military guy's like, all right, if you can fight me, we'll fucking get through. I'll take you through there if you win. And of course he doesn't win somehow. Like, I mean, I shouldn't say he doesn't win somehow, but of course he doesn't win. Like, you know, he's not going to win. He gets his ass handed to him, but he also fucks up the soldier apparently. And so they get kicked out of the base. The sergeant's like, you guys are out of here. I'm not going to house any people that are like fighting with my men or whatever. Like, so they get kicked out. And so again, you're like, dude, like, this guy fucked up. They had a perfect place to have her child and to be safe. And he fucked it up by trying to like fucking, you know, hitch a ride by fighting these fools to try to get into this no man's land zone. Ridiculous. So they leave. And they're traversing again. They're fucking like in the rain. Like, it's just so sad because, again, she's pregnant. You're like, why are they doing this? Like, they're in love and they're dealing with all these like emotions together. And it's like, you guys can't just be like on your own like this. You will fucking die. So they find like another little like abandoned house, and they hide out in the house, and, you know, in the very middle of no man's land. And he's like, you know, I don't want to be here. She's, you know, she of course is like, we're about to have the baby. Like, where do you want to go? You want to leave? Like, I don't want to have the baby like in the woods, terrified that I'm going to die. And he's like, you know, all right, we'll stay here. Fucking next morning, he's like, nah, I don't want to stay here. And for all we know, they probably were there for a night, but you don't really know. Fuck, they could have jumped like months, right? And he finds like a bike, And he's like, all right, we're gonna take this bike and I'm gonna ride this bike to Boston, right? Fuck that. We're gonna get there sooner than later because I want to protect you, whatever. So she's like, all right. So they get on the bike, and wouldn't you know it, they're riding through and they end up getting separated, right? They find a bunch of androids and they get separated. And at this point in the movie, I'm like, all right, like I get it. Like I hope they start explaining what's going on with the androids. And like you say, it's called Mother Android. So I was expecting either her or the boyfriend to be an android, and something to happen that was going to be a revelation of like she's the mother of all androids or some shit. And they get attacked by all these androids and they get separated, and she ends up being found by this like crazy guy in the woods, and he's wearing this like crazy cloak and shit. And his name's Arthur, and he's like, oh, you know, I was a programmer, and you know, we realized that we should, like, you know, we should never have made these AIs and we should never have made these androids. But we wanted to because we thought they were going to better humanity, and they didn't. And he says that the one thing that will kill humanity off is love, because we want to be there for each other as a people, but it's also what's going to destroy us as a people. And he says that, you know, because she's like, you know, I want to go save my boyfriend, like, you got to help me. And he's like, no, you know, you could survive, you could save yourself, but you might die because of saving your boyfriend, because your boyfriend's he needs your help, so you're just going to risk your life to save him, knowing that you very much well could die, and knowing that your child could die as well, you know, your unborn child. So she's like, of course, I don't care, I love him. So she goes and has to save him, and she does. He gives her, the Arthur guy gives her this cloak he creates. It like shields you from the vision of the androids. They can still sense you, but they can't see you. So she wears the cloak and she sneaks into the android hideout and saves her boyfriend. And he is like, they beat him up and shit. He's all fucked up. But there's like the best scene in the whole fucking movie is there's this scene where he's laying down chained up. And so she sees him and she's like trying to get him. And then the android comes in because the android hears something. So he comes in and she hides, and she has the cloak thing on so he can't see her. But the boyfriend's like, oh, you know, I'm right here, like, you know, blah, 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 trying to like just get the android to come over to him so it doesn't notice her. And the android like steps on his ankles, right? Steps on his ankles, and he's stepping on him. You hear like the blood and the cartilage and the meat, you know, the skin breaking. And then he steps, and he's literally stepping on the floor, right? Because he smashed his ankle so, like, he crushed his ankle so much that he's literally just now stepping on the floor. And it was just so cringy. I mean, that episode, I mean, not cringy, but like, made my stomach turn, you know? Like, I felt like I wanted to throw up, because it was just like, oh, like, that shit sucked. Like, I felt it, you know? I felt that pain. Yeah, it was fantastic. Like, that whole sequence was just kind of cool. I loved it. Best part of the whole movie for sure. But then so she rescues him, of course, and she's getting out and she's about to get ambushed by the androids because they realize that he's trying to escape. And then the Arthur guy shows up that rescued her and just like takes them all down like nothing, just fucking kills them all. And it turns out that his hideout that he was living in was like an abandoned, was a truck that actually ran. So he gets her into the truck and then they drive away. And she's literally going into contractions. At that moment, she starts going into contractions because she's 9 months pregnant, already overdue. And when they were trying to escape the android safe zone or the android hideout, she falls, and that initiates her contractions. And so she's literally giving birth inside the truck as they're trying to drive away from these androids. Her boyfriend's feet are like mangled, and then she gives birth. So she wakes up, and here's where I thought the movie fell flat on its face, because at this point they should have told you about the androids. They should have given some flashbacks. They should have done something that got you invested into why and what the androids are all about, because up to this point it's all about the nonsense between the two main characters and their relationship, and them having this fucking kid trying to get around the states to get to fucking Boston. So when she wakes up and you find out that she gave birth to a healthy baby boy, I thought the fucking baby was going to be an android, to be honest, because you find out that the androids are like literal, like they end up finding out how to like create tissue and shit or whatever. They're super smart apparently. So I thought like she was going to give birth to like the first android human, like some crazy sci-fi shit, but it was nothing. She just gave birth. They ask her like, who is this Arthur guy that came in with you? And she's explaining everything, and they're like, this makes no sense. If this guy really did exist, why wasn't he here helping us with this material and this technology? that could cloak us from the androids. Like, it makes no sense. How did you survive that attack? Be honest with us. So at that point, she realizes that Arthur, the guy that saved her, in fact was an android. He was an android that was evolved enough to be able to use the emotion of love to convince her to believe that he was human and that he was actually here to help her get to the Boston Harbor medical facility that she ends up at. Super ridiculous because, again, there's no build up to understand that these androids could be doing that. It just turns into like a kind of a low-key, like, oh, that's crazy. And so she's in a wheelchair, and she somehow gets all the way to the area in the base. Well, first of all, she knows where to go. Second of all, she's able to get to the area in the base where she's able to turn on the EMP, which will shut down, of course, and kill all the androids. But all these facilities, all these base camps for the survivors of the humans, they have an EMP, but they can only use it if they're being overrun, because once the EMP is used, that base is pretty much a sitting duck, because then the androids can come and destroy them, or attack them, because there's no threat. So she gets in there, and then the Arthur guy, gives her his big reveal that, like, fucking, I was an android this whole time, and, like, I'm smarter or whatever, and, love is gonna kill the human race, and, like, blah blah blah. So anticlimactic, to be honest. And she's, like, holding her baby. And then that's the scene, like I said in the beginning, where it's like a Terminator scene, where the guy literally walks up to her, and she has her gun. She brings a gun with her, or that she pulls off of, like, a dead soldier, and she shoots the guy like 5 times in the face, and kills the robot, but literally destroys the skin off of his robotic face, and he fucking looks like a Terminator. He straight up looks like a Terminator, and I was like, this is fucking Terminator. He's a Terminator. So she does the EMP, kills all the androids in the area, and so what do you know it? She's the hero. She's the fucking hero. She gets her boyfriend, who had to get both of his legs amputated, and her newborn baby boy, and they go to the harbor, and the Koreans are there, and they're like, oh, unfortunately, I know you went through all this trouble to get here, and your boyfriend has, like, no feet and everything, but we're only taking the children. We're only taking the children to Korea, so unfortunately the mothers and fathers cannot come. We don't have enough housing. We don't have enough food. We can only take care of children right now. We're only accepting children. So they're devastated. She just carried this fucking baby to term, went through who knows what within those 9 months, because you will never know. I doubt they'll ever make a sequel to it. Maybe like 5 years from now, when it gets enough streams. But they find out that they're not taking adults, so they end up having to give up their baby. And it is so sad. It is so devastating. The scene is it's so heartbreaking for her to realize that, like, she wants her child to have a better life, but she will never be able to give that child a better life if she doesn't give up the child. The child it won't survive with them here, because they'll die, probably. So she gives the baby away. They take the baby to Korea, and they raise it. They show little, like, flash forwards of the kid getting older with his, like, Korean parents. Super weird, kind of random. I would have rather had flashbacks, like I said, of how the androids took over, or what the fuck happened with all that. I wanted to know so bad, and you don't know. And so yeah, and then I guess the boyfriend dies, because they don't show him after that, but he ends up obviously dying because they say he won't pull through. And then Chloe, the main character, Georgia, she just ends up moving on. She just goes and joins a convoy to try to find other survivors and to go to another base camp. And the movie kind of ends on a happy note, but at the same time a sad note, because, she lost her child, but it's not dead. It just will hopefully have a better life. And then she obviously lost her boyfriend, who she actually was in love with, So it kind of, at the end of the day, it was a great movie. But I really, 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 really wish it was a TV show, because I think it would have been fantastic. They could have added so much more. They could have discussed they could have discussed No Man's Land. They could have discussed other factions of people trying to survive. They could have discussed whoever created the androids, whoever programmed the androids. They could have just, it was like if Westworld had happened, but they never explained anything about, like, the workings of Westworld. It was just like, hey, this is this world where there's androids and you can be in whatever time periods you want, but they never showed the behind the scenes of what actually happened in the company. Like, it'd be like, what the fuck is going on, So yeah, that's kind of like, if they made Westworld a movie, Which, I mean, there was an original movie, Westworld, or whatever, that was, I don't think it's called Westworld, but the original movie that Westworld was like based off of, where it's like it deals with, you know, having a world or having a company that makes worlds and shit with AI and with robots. I forgot what it was called. It's a great movie though, but I'll try and link it in the description. But yeah, it's fantastic. And like I said, maybe some shows really should be movies, and maybe some movies really need to be just broadened out into shows, because, you know, people like watching things, obviously, if they're engaged in it, and sometimes there's just not enough shit to get people invested in. Maybe there's too much shit to get people put off. So I don't know, but it's just a thought I had. I was gonna just make a video on it of just the movie, reviewing the movie, but I thought that, you know what, this deserves like me just kind of talking with y'all and just kind of being like, this is what I think about this, and this is why I think it should be the way it is, or it shouldn't be done the way it is. But I digress. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. This has been Ghost in the Craig. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it all the way to the end, thank you. And yeah, you guys have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll catch you on the flip side.